Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleepy Science. The room is quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you realize just how many background noises you usually tune out. Buzzing fridges, distant traffic, your own thoughts tapping their fingers on the counter of your skull. But right now, it's still. And in that stillness, you notice your breathing, the faintest sensation of air cooling your nostrils, your chest lifting. And yet, if I asked you to count your senses, you'd probably say 5. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. The same tired handful you learned back in school, recited with the confidence of someone listing off items on a grocery list. But if you're lying there now thinking, wait, what about the way I know I'm upside down? Or the little jolt of anxiety when the room temperature shifts just a bit too fast? Or how I can sense when someone's standing behind me, even if they haven't made a sound? Congratulations. You've just stumbled into the murky waters of the hidden human senses. And you probably won't survive this, well, unshaken anyway, because tonight we're diving into the strange, often unnoticed abilities that your brain uses to navigate reality. Not future tech, not superpowers, just the weird wiring you've had all along. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far this sleepy little science cloud drifts across the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie back, eyes closed, not asleep, not quite awake. And right now, 5 senses doesn't even begin to cover what your body is doing. Every inch of you is alive with sensation. Your inner ear is juggling the physics of balance. Your skin is registering the texture of the sheets. Your gut is reporting in with a gentle, satisfied sigh. Let's get one thing straight. There's no official number of senses. Even scientists can't agree. Some say 9, others say 33. One popular framework lands around 21. Historians still argue whether Aristotle's 5 senses model did more harm than good to public understanding. But honestly, he was just trying to write an intro to metaphysics, not launch a TikTok trend. That 5-sense framework is just a simplification, a catchy mnemonic, like those pastel pyramids of the old food guide that made it seem like Frosted Flakes and salmon lived on the same dietary shelf. But you've always had more. For instance, right now, you know where your feet are. Even if they're under a blanket and you haven't moved them in hours, you know. That's proprioception. We'll get there. You also know how fast your heart is beating. Not because you consciously check, but because your body gently informs you. That's interoception, also coming soon. But before we break them down, let's do a little mental time travel. Flash back to ancient times and you'll find early theories of sensation bound to the elements. Earth, air, fire, water. Sight was tied to fire, your inner flame casting light outward. Smell was air, taste and touch, earth. Sound, the dance of the air itself. It was poetic, sure, but not terribly scientific. Still, those ancient theories gave rise to the medieval model, which gave rise to the Renaissance. And onward we went. All the way to the 19th century, when German scientists like Johannes Müller tried to map sensory input to specific nerves, forming the basis of what we now call sensory modalities. One sense equals one system, one set of receptors, one message to the brain, clean and tidy, except it's not. Your senses blend, they overlap, they whisper to each other. You can feel sound in your chest. You can see the texture of something before touching it. You can taste memories. None of this fits neatly into a box. And then there's the fringe, the quirk science still hasn't pinned down. Like how blind people sometimes navigate using echolight clicks, or how synesthetes taste shapes and see letters in color, or the bizarre reports of people sensing magnetic north despite never owning a compass. Science hasn't debunked all of these. It just hasn't fully understood them. Not yet. And then we have the issue of internal senses. Ones that don't relay what's outside you, but what's inside. Your blood sugar levels. your CO2 saturation, your bladder fullness, your intestines rumbling in Morse code. These aren't gut feelings in the metaphorical sense, they're real data streams. So yes, you're a walking sensor array, a soft, humming, constantly updating surveillance system that's been running diagnostics since the moment you were born. And most of it, totally invisible to your conscious awareness. Like how, if you spin around in a chair, you feel dizzy, because the fluid in your inner ear keeps swirling even after you stop. Or how you sense the floor tilt on a boat before your eyes notice anything's wrong. Or, my personal favorite, the way your body starts making microscopic posture adjustments before you even think about standing up. Your muscles have a pre-party planning committee. There's even a word for it: feed forward. Your nervous system doesn't just react, it predicts, it presenses. And while we're tossing out surprises, here's one. Some animals, like sea cucumbers and cuttlefish, detect changes in polarization of light. Can you? Some researchers say maybe, but it's probably so faint we'd never notice, unless you've been secretly squidding around. Anyway, as you drift in and out of focus tonight, don't be surprised if you start noticing little things you'd normally ignore. The shift in temperature from your toes to your chest, the pull of gravity on your spine, the faint tension in your jaw. None of these are touch, exactly. They're part of the hidden web. So as we settle deeper, one question floats up like a slow bubble in the dark. If your body has all these secret senses, what else might you be missing? You're not moving, not really, but somewhere inside your skull, a tiny trio of fluid-filled canals is making absolutely sure you don't fall off the bed. These canals are nestled deep in your inner ear, curled like 3 bent straws at perfect right angles to each other, each one filled with endolymph, a syrupy fluid that sloshes around when you move your head. The moment you tilt forward, backward, sideways, or spin like you're pretending to be a windmill for some reason, those fluid waves crash against microscopic hairs in the canals. These hairs fire signals to your brain that say, "Hey, you're upside down again." Welcome to your vestibular system, the unsung hero of balance. It doesn't get much glory, but without it, walking across the room would feel like trying to carry a tray of soup on a unicycle. Contrary to what your old gym teacher told you, balance isn't a skill you practice. It's a sense you're born with. And if you've ever tried standing on one leg in the shower with shampoo in your eyes, you've probably felt just how finely tuned it really is. Here's the deal. Your brain doesn't just use sight to orient you in space. The vestibular system constantly feeds it data on head position, angular motion, and linear acceleration. If your eyes say we're still, but your vestibular sense says we're spinning, your brain short circuits, and boom, dizziness. That's motion sickness in a nutshell. Historians still argue whether the vestibular system deserved to be considered its own full sense earlier in history, or whether it got buried under the catch-all of touch. But it wasn't until the 19th century that scientists like Prosper Ménière started connecting the inner ear to issues of balance and vertigo. Today, Ménière's disease is named after him, a condition that causes the vestibular system to go full drama queen, unleashing waves of spinning and nausea. Not ideal. Now here's a weird twist. You can retrain this sense. That's what tightrope walkers and ballerinas do. They aren't born with superhuman balance. Their brains just learn to reinterpret the dizzying flood of vestibular signals. Same goes for astronauts. In space, with no gravity to anchor those inner ear signals, everything gets scrambled. Imagine trying to brush your teeth while your brain insists you're upside down in a snow globe. Not restful. And then there's the curious case of vestibular migraines, headaches where the most dramatic symptom isn't pain, but disorientation. People describe the sensation of moving when still, or the room spinning around them like a carousel gone rogue. Again, this is your brain misreading the fluid dynamics of your inner ear. Ever notice how some people can't handle roller coasters? That's not weakness, it's sensory conflict. The vestibular system is throwing up red flags while the rest of the body tries to convince you this is fine. Everything's fine, just hurtling through space at 60 miles per hour. One fringe tidbit. Researchers once experimented with electrically stimulating the vestibular system to induce balance changes, literally using electrodes behind the ears to fake a sense of tilt. The subjects stumbled like sailors on their first day ashore. Imagine hacking your sense of up. That's some cartoon-level chaos. But here's the real kicker. You never stop using this sense, even lying down. Right now, as your head rests on a pillow, your vestibular system is softly whispering to your brain, "Hey, buddy, we're tilted 15 degrees to the left, just FYI." Close your eyes, picture yourself floating in a pool. No waves, just stillness. You can feel your orientation. Your brain knows which way is up. You're not touching anything, not seeing anything. That's the vestibular sense doing its silent ballet. Some researchers call this sixth sense, the body's inertial compass. It keeps track of where you are in three-dimensional space, even if gravity changes or your eyes lie to you. That's why when you stumble in the dark, your arms shoot out automatically. Your vestibular system screamed before your brain processed the trip. It's also part of why bobbies can be soothed by rocking. The rhythm, the motion, it's not just calming. It's literal vestibular stimulation. Your inner ear gets lulled into a slow, sleepy rhythm. Humans never outgrow that trick. Why do you think rocking chairs exist? The vestibular system also links up with your eye movements in a deliciously weird way. It's called the vestibulo-ocular reflex. If your head turns left, your eyes automatically flick right to stabilize the image. It happens faster than thought. It's the reason you can read a book while nodding. Your brain juggles those signals so you don't see blurry lines dancing across the page. And if that breaks down, you get something called nystagmus, those weird, jerky eye movements that make you feel like your vision is stuck on a washing machine setting. It's common in vertigo attacks and can even be triggered by spinning in circles for too long. Fun historical side note. In the early 20th century, scientists believed poor balance was linked to hysteria in women. It took decades and a lot of eye-rolling to finally diagnose balance disorders as physical, not emotional. So yes, you can thank feminism for getting your vertigo taken seriously. So next time you turn your head and your brain doesn't think the world just slid off its axis, tip your hat to those tiny fluid canals and the whispering hairs inside them. They're your biological gyroscope. No batteries, no updates, just pure analog grace. You're not just lying still right now. You're actively sensing your orientation in space. You're reading the tilt of the Earth through a thimble of fluid in your skull. You're a living pendulum. And the moment you shift position, roll over, or just tilt your head to one side, your vestibular system will send a full-body group text that says, "Hey folks, new direction incoming." Soft, subtle, and ever-present, this is your first hidden sense. And don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from. Try this, close your eyes, stretch one arm out to the side, and slowly bring your finger to touch the tip of your nose. Unless something's gone terribly wrong, you nail it. No sight, no guidance, just raw spatial instinct. That's not magic, it's proprioception, your brain's built-in GPS for body parts. This sense doesn't get billboards or parades, but without it, you'd have to watch your limbs every time you moved them. Imagine trying to walk while staring at your feet, or eating spaghetti while keeping your eyes glued to your fork. Not very dignified. Proprioception is the quiet symphony of internal awareness. You don't think about your knees bending as you sit down or your fingers curling as you turn a page. You just do it, and that's exactly the point. This sense lives below thought. So how does it work? Your muscles, tendons, and joints are laced with sensors, specifically muscle spindles and Golgi tendon organs. These little biological spies constantly report back to your brain on things like tension, length, pressure, and position. Your brain uses that data to map your body in real time, like a virtual avatar updating with every twitch and stretch. It's how you can scratch your own back, how you can navigate a dark room with arms outstretched, how you somehow manage to brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand when your dominant one is busy checking your phone. Historians still argue whether the idea of body awareness was first properly studied in the 19th century or if earlier accounts, like Da Vinci's notes on anatomy and motion, hinted at it centuries earlier. Either way, modern neuroscience didn't give proprioception its due until the 1900s, when British neurologist Charles Sherrington gave it a name. Before that, it was just part of movement. But you really notice proprioception when it breaks down. Take the strange case of Ian Waterman. In his early 20s, Ian contracted a rare viral infection that damaged the nerves responsible for proprioception and touch from the neck down. He could still move, his muscles were fine, but he had no sense of where his body was unless he looked directly at it. Walking became a full-body starring contest. He had to visually guide every step, like a marionette learning choreography. Despite that, he learned to function again by using visual cues and conscious control. But it was exhausting. The moment he closed his eyes, he'd collapse like a dropped marionette. Now try this one. Reach behind your head and touch your ear. Easy. But if I asked you to imagine the exact angle of your elbow, the position of your shoulder blade, the subtle shift in weight between your feet, could you? You can sense it. That's proprioception humming in the background like a white noise machine made of nerve endings. It's also deeply tied to your sense of self. When people undergo anesthesia that blocks proprioception, they sometimes report a strange detachment from their bodies, like floating or being disassembled. Without those feedback signals, the body becomes a sort of puppet with cut strings. Even more bizarre are conditions like somatoperiphenia, where individuals deny ownership of their own limbs. They'll say things like, "That's not my arm, it belongs to the doctor," while looking straight at it. Neurologists believe a breakdown in proprioceptive integration might play a role here. And what about when it goes hyperactive? Ever felt your phone vibrate when it did? That's not just your skin messing with you, it could be a blend of tactile and proprioceptive anticipation. You expected a buzz. Your body predicted one, so it made one up. Then there's the phenomenon of phantom limbs. People who have lost a limb often still feel it, itching, moving, even hurting. This isn't a psychological trick. Their brain's proprioceptive map still includes that limb, even if it's no longer there. The brain doesn't just take a limb off the registry because it's gone. It keeps listening, even in silence. Some therapies for phantom limb pain use mirror boxes to give the brain new visual feedback, basically tricking it into updating its map. Proprioception can be edited, but it takes patience, like updating old GPS software that insists your house is still a cornfield. Here's a fringe tidbit. Ballet dancers and gymnasts often score unusually high on proprioceptive tests, not just because they train their bodies, but because they train their awareness of their bodies. It's not just strength or flexibility, it's internal surveillance. And yet, you don't need to pirouette or do backflips to appreciate your own proprioception. Think of typing. Your fingers fly across the keyboard, remembering where the T is without looking. That's motor memory, yes, but it's also proprioception telling your brain, this finger is here, that one is there, let's go. Or try walking upstairs in the dark. Your foot somehow lands on each step, guided by a subtle sense of elevation, angle, and timing. Miss a step, and your whole body yells in surprise. That sharp jolt when your foot expects a floor but meets empty air. That's your proprioception screaming in protest. One more example, stretching. That satisfying moment when you reach your arms over your head and feel the tension release in your shoulders. That's proprioceptive input reinforcing awareness of your physical state. It's also partly why yoga and Tai Chi feel so grounding. They sharpen your inner map. So next time you catch something midair without thinking, or reach behind the couch and find your phone on instinct alone, give a nod to proprioception. It's your invisible cartographer, your personal drone scout, the sense that tells you, yes, you are still connected to this meat suit. It won't ask for applause, it just wants you to stay upright. And if you've ever sleepwalked without face planting into a wall, now you know who to thank. Time doesn't always behave. Some nights it oozes like warm molasses, thick, slow, unhurried. Other times it skips and stutters like a scratched CD caught in a loop. But whatever it's doing, you feel it. That creeping tension before a deadline. The dragging hours in a waiting room. The way summer break vanished in a blink. You don't just measure time with clocks, you sense it. And that sneaky 6th or 12th sense is called chronosption. Chronosption isn't housed in one tidy organ like sight or hearing. It's a networked affair, a grand collaboration between your suprachiasmatic nucleus, a clump of neurons in your hypothalamus, your cerebellum, and various bits of your cortex. Basically, it's your brain's attempt to keep a calendar, stopwatch, and sundial all running in parallel. And it's doing this while you're brushing your teeth or trying to remember if you locked the front door. Let's start with your circadian rhythm, your built-in 24-hour clock. Even in total darkness, even if you lived in a bunker with no sunrise, your body would still roughly follow a day-night cycle. You'd get sleepy at the same time, crave food in waves, and feel alert in short, glorious bursts that never seem to align with your work schedule. That's the suprachiasmatic nucleus doing its thing. It responds to light, yes, but it also keeps its own rhythm, ticking quietly in the dark. Historians still argue whether ancient societies had a true concept of internal time, or whether they simply shaped life around the visible sky. Some point to the Egyptians' use of water clocks and shadow sticks as evidence that humans have long tried to mirror nature's beat. Others say those tools were just external crutches for something our brains were already tracking. But the real weirdness of chronosption kicks in when you try to estimate short spans of time. Try closing your eyes and counting to 30. No humming, no ticking, just pure internal packing. Some people finish in 20 seconds, others take 45. Your mental metronome isn't always in sync. Even stranger, that metronome speeds up or slows down based on emotion, age, body temperature, even what music you've been listening to. Ever noticed how time flies during a good concert but drags painfully at the DMV? That's not just boredom, it's your brain's time sense stretching like taffy. Your cerebellum, usually known for controlling movement and balance, also plays a starring role in short-term timing. Studies with brain-damaged patients have shown that when the cerebellum is impaired, people struggle to tell how much time has passed. To them, 10 seconds and 30 seconds feel identical. It's like living with a broken stopwatch. Then there's dopamine. Your brain's reward chemical doesn't just make you feel good, it also speeds up your perception of time. When you're excited or stimulated, your brain processes more events per second, making time feel fuller, faster, richer. This is partly why childhood feels so long. Your tiny brain is gobbling up new information at warp speed, logging everything. Fringe tidbit alert. There's a small population of people with a rare neurological condition called tachysensia, also known as Alice in Wonderland syndrome, who perceive time, space, and motion at warp speeds. To them, the world can seem to speed up or slow down dramatically for minutes at a time, without any physical cause. The brain, it turns out, is a very unreliable timekeeper. You also store time. Ever had a dream that felt like it lasted hours but took only minutes in real life? That's your brain compressing and expanding time perception based on narrative logic. Or think about how you remember a day, not as a continuous feed, but as highlights and scenes. Your brain edits the movie and fills in the gaps. Athletes often report something similar during flow states. Time slows, movements become precise, the world narrows to a perfect rhythm. That's chronoception working in sync with proprioception and focus, creating a kind of lived slow motion. And while we're at it, ever wondered why time seems to speed up as you age? It's not just because life gets busier. One theory suggests it's because each year becomes a smaller percentage of your life. At 5 years old, a year is 20% of your entire existence. At 50, it's just 2%. Your brain logs novelty more than repetition, so the more familiar your routines, the fewer new time stamps your brain records. Time compresses. So yes, your sense of time is real, and it can be trained. Musicians, for example, develop highly refined time perception. They can split seconds into precise, consistent beats. They feel time. Dancers do too. Their bodies live inside rhythms, anticipating the next count like a second heartbeat. And you, even lying still in bed, you're tracking time. Your breathing settles into a rhythm. Your thoughts drift in and out like waves. You sense the space between heartbeats, the distance between dreams. Of course, chronoception can be tricked. Drugs, sleep deprivation, even extreme boredom can warp your perception of time. That's why long car rides feel endless until you try to remember them. Then they're just a blur. One study once tested this by having people sit in a windowless room and guess how long they'd been there. Some said 10 minutes, others guessed over an hour. The real time, 20 minutes. The only thing more flexible than your spine is your sense of time. So yes, you carry a clock, not in your pocket, not on your wrist, in your neurons. It ticks without ticking. It runs fast when you're thrilled, slow when you're anxious, and it never once shows up on a smartwatch. You've always had a sense of time. You just didn't know it had a name. And now that you do, you'll probably start noticing it everywhere. The stillness between breaths, the long seconds before sleep catches you, the way your mind jumps forward, backward, and sideways, all within a moment. Tick-tock. Just like that, another minute slips by. Reach out toward the lamp beside you. Hover your hand above it. Don't touch, just hold it there, maybe 2 inches away from the bulb. You feel it, don't you? That warm haze radiating against your palm like an invisible breath. You didn't touch anything, but your skin still knew. That's thermoception, your body's ability to sense temperature, both inside and outside. And no, it's not just touch but spicy. It's its own sense. Thermoception lives in a network of dedicated receptors, tucked just under your skin. These receptors are split into 2 main camps: cold receptors, which detect drops in temperature, and warm receptors, which react to rising heat. They're like rival weather stations broadcasting around the clock, except instead of giving you the 5-day forecast, they make you pull on a hoodie or kick off your socks. But here's the fun part. You don't need to touch anything to feel its temperature. You can sense the radiant warmth of a fireplace from across the room. You can flinch from a heat lamp without ever brushing against it. That's thermoception flexing its muscles. The mechanism behind this is partly due to free nerve endings, tiny sensory outposts in your skin tuned to ambient thermal energy. They detect infrared radiation, the same way snakes like pit vipers do, but on a much duller, more human scale. And yes, some researchers have floated the idea that we're low-key infrared detectors, though you probably won't be hunting mice in total darkness anytime soon. Historians still argue whether early thinkers considered temperature a true sense or just a condition of the environment. Aristotle lumped heat and cold under touch, which made sense back when science mostly meant staring at things and writing poems about the stars. It wasn't until the 19th century that researchers like Wilhelm Wundt began separating thermal perception into its own category. So if it's a distinct sense, what makes it special? Well, for starters, it doesn't just tell you how the world feels. It keeps you alive. Your hypothalamus uses thermoceptive input to regulate your body temperature, maintaining a cozy internal climate around 98, 6 degrees F, or 37 degrees C for the metric romantics among us. Get too hot, and your brain triggers sweating. Get too cold, and you start to shiver. All of that happens before you even realize you're uncomfortable. You're not deciding to warm up. Your body already has. Now, things get extra weird when you learn about thermal illusions. For example, the paradoxical heat illusion. When you touch something that's both hot and cold at the same time, like metal at just the right temperature, your brain can interpret the sensation as burning. It's a short circuit of sensory input. Cold receptors say one thing, warm receptors say another, and the brain just throws its hands up and yells, pain. Speaking of which, some creatures take thermoception to wild extremes. Snakes have heat-sensing pits that can map the body heat of prey with surprising accuracy. Vampire bats use thermal cues to find the juiciest blood vessels. And sharks. Oh, sharks can sense even slight changes in water temperature to help them hunt. Now, humans can't do all that, but you do sense thermal gradients better than you think. Ever walked into a room and immediately noticed a cold draft even though nothing's moving? That's not your imagination. It's your skin detecting subtle shifts in the air's temperature. Here's a fun fringe fact. Some people with a rare condition called congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis, CIPA, can't feel pain or temperature. To them, boiling water feels no different than room temperature. Without thermoception, they can easily overheat or freeze without realizing. It's a reminder that even the subtlest senses are critical. And don't forget internal temperature sensing. You have thermal receptors deep in your body, especially around your spinal cord and abdominal organs. These monitor core temperature and trigger things like fever responses, chills, and even nausea when things go out of balance. That woozy feeling when you overheat, that's thermoception waving a red flag. It's not just discomfort, it's a survival alarm. Weirdly, we also respond to imagined temperature. Think about biting into a popsicle or stepping into a steaming sauna. Your skin tingles. Your brain primes your body as if it's actually happening. Your sense of temperature is tied to imagination, memory, and even language. That's why metaphors like cold shoulder or warm welcome feel so visceral. And let's not forget emotional thermoregulation. When you're anxious or embarrassed, you flush. Your body generates heat and redirects blood flow to your face and extremities. When you're scared, you go pale and cold. Your body modulates heat based on mood. This sense is as psychological as it is physical. It's also social. Ever huddled close to someone just because they were warm, not necessarily because you liked them? That's your skin picking up ambient heat, your brain calculating shared thermal benefit. Romantic, right? Nothing says affection like shared metabolism. Temperature also plays a sneaky role in sleep. As your core temperature dips in the evening, it signals your brain to begin winding down. That's why taking a warm bath before bed works. It spikes your body temperature, and the subsequent cooling tricks your body into sleep mode. Clever little thermal hack. And if you've ever argued over the thermostat, congratulations. You've experienced thermoception's greatest battleground. Some people are simply more sensitive than others. Women tend to have slightly cooler skin temperatures on average, making them more likely to feel chilly in air-conditioned offices designed for 1970s men in three-piece suits. So yes, you've got your own thermal radar. It doesn't beep or buzz, but it hums constantly. From the air on your face to the mug in your hand, you are always feeling the temperature of your environment. And as you drift deeper into stillness tonight, you might notice the gradient from your fingertips to your toes. The way your face feels just a little cooler than your chest. The weight of the blanket pressing gently down, holding warmth in place like a sensory lullaby. You don't just touch the world, you feel its heat and its chill and everything in between. Even now, your skin is whispering the weather. You stub your toe on the edge of the bed frame. Instantly, before you can think, before any words leave your mouth, your body erupts in a bright, almost electric jolt of sensation. It's not just touch. It's not just temperature. It's pain. And yes, pain is its own sense. A full-fledged, standalone sensory system with its own rules, pathways and purpose. This system is called nociception, and it's not here to ruin your life, even though it sometimes feels like it. Nociception is your personal bodyguard, trained to scream the moment anything threatens your soft, squishy meat suit. It's not about suffering, it's about detection. Here's how it works. You've got specialized sensory neurons called nociceptors all over your skin, muscles, joints, and organs. When they detect something dangerous, extreme pressure, burning heat, chemical damage, they send a panic signal up your spinal cord to your brain. That signal is pain. But it's not a one-size-fits-all alert. Pain can come as a sharp stab, a dull throb, a burning ache, or a weird pressure that you know isn't right. That's because different nociceptors are tuned to different threats. Some respond to mechanical damage like cuts or scrapes. Others react to extreme heat or cold. And some, especially in your guts, fire only under bizarre conditions, like sudden stretching or inflammation. Pain is the ultimate interrupter. You could be focused, asleep, daydreaming, and pain will kick in the door and demand your full attention. And unlike other senses, pain doesn't just report. It lingers. It learns. Your nervous system can actually amplify pain after repeated exposure. This is called central sensitization, and it's why chronic pain can persist long after the original injury has healed. Your body gets so good at hurting, it forgets how to stop. Historians still argue whether pain was ever truly recognized as a sense, rather than an emotion. Ancient texts like those from Hippocrates often framed pain as a symptom of imbalance, not a standalone sensory event. It wasn't until the 20th century, with breakthroughs in neurology and pain theory, that nociception got its own backstage pass to the Sensory Hall of Fame. Still, it remains a misunderstood outlier. Touch something hot, and your pain response kicks in before you're even aware of the danger. That's thanks to reflex arcs, bypasses in your spinal cord that let you react to pain without involving the brain. Your hand jerks away before the message of burning even arrives in your consciousness. And yet pain isn't always honest. Consider referred pain, that weird phenomenon where you feel pain in one area, but the problem is somewhere else entirely. Heart attacks often cause pain in the left arm or jaw. Liver issues can create pain in the shoulder. It's like your body trying to communicate using the world's worst GPS. Then there's phantom limb pain, a classic example of how deeply nociception is tied to brain maps. People who have lost limbs often still feel pain in them, not because of damage, but because the brain hasn't updated its internal blueprint. It's still receiving and interpreting ghost signals. And now for something fringe. In rare cases, people are born with congenital insensitivity to pain. They can't feel heat, cold, or injury. At first, it sounds like a superpower, but in reality, it's dangerous. These individuals often suffer from unnoticed wounds, broken bones, and infections because their internal alarm system never goes off. Pain isn't a punishment, it's a protection protocol. But pain isn't just physical. Emotional pain and physical pain share overlapping neural pathways. The anterior cingulate cortex lights up when you stub your toe and when you get dumped. The brain doesn't fully differentiate between social rejection and stepping on a Lego in the dark, which, to be fair, feel equally traumatic. Pain is also profoundly cultural. In some societies, stoicism is praised. Pain is something to be endured silently. In others, it's openly expressed, even ritualized. Pain perception can shift based on language, belief, context, and attention. Ever noticed how a scraped knee hurts more when someone's watching? That's not just psychology, it's neurology. Your brain ramps up pain when it believes the threat is more socially or physically significant. And then there's the placebo effect. Take a sugar pill, believe it's medicine, and your pain might actually decrease. Why? Because your brain releases endorphins, natural painkillers, when it expects relief. Your body is its own pharmacy. The opposite is also true. Believe something will hurt more, and it probably will. That's called nocebo, and yes, it's just as real. So right now, even as you lie still in the dark, your nociceptors are quietly monitoring your skin, muscles, and joints. Like tiny lifeguards on duty, they're scanning for threats. You may not notice them, but the moment something burns, stretches, pinches, or cuts, you'll know. And not all pain is equal. Some is acute, sharp, immediate, and helpful. Other pain becomes chronic, lingering, fuzzy, and cruel. And sometimes your body invents pain for problems that aren't even physical. That's part of what makes it such a mystery. Take complex regional pain syndrome, CRPS. It's a chronic pain condition where a small injury leads to excruciating, disproportionate pain that can last for months or years. Nobody fully understands why it happens. Your nerves go rogue, your brain cooperates, and suddenly your pain is writing its own horror novel. So while pain may feel like punishment, it's really an act of protection. Like a fire alarm that won't shut up, not because there's fire, but because the wiring thinks there might be. And yet pain can also heal, by teaching us to avoid harm, to rest, to protect what's wounded. It's not your enemy, it's your shadow guard working overtime. Tonight, you're probably not in pain, hopefully not, but your nociceptors are awake anyway. They never sleep, they just lie in wait, quiet, ready. Just in case. That flutter in your chest when someone texts you back. The deep breath you didn't realize you were holding. The bubbling, slow awareness of hunger, thirst, or that quiet ache behind your eyes. You didn't see it, you didn't hear it, but you knew it. Welcome to interoception, your body's private messaging system, where every organ, muscle, and cell whispers updates to your brain. You're not just experiencing the world outside yourself. You're monitoring the universe inside, too. Interoception is how you know you need water before your mouth is dry, how you sense your heart pounding during anxiety, how you realize you're about to sneeze, even though no one said, "Hey, prepare for nasal chaos." It's a whole network of internal sensors reporting in, tracking blood pressure, gut distension, hormone levels, oxygen saturation, bladder fullness, hunger, thirst, muscle fatigue, and the subtle choreography of your heartbeat. And it's deeply tied to emotion. Feeling anxious. That might start with a fast heartbeat your brain notices before you do. Interoception doesn't just relay bodily status, it interprets it. You don't just feel nervous, you feel what nervousness feels like in your body. It's subtle, it's layered, and it's probably running the show more than you think. Historians still argue whether ancient medical traditions like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine were early explorations of interoception. After all, they focused on internal balance, energy flow, gut health, and bodily awareness long before Western medicine caught on. But formal scientific recognition of interoception as a distinct sense didn't arrive until the late 20th century, when neuroscientists began mapping how the brain interprets internal signals. And when they did, one brain region lit up over and over, the insula. The insular cortex is like mission control for interoceptive signals. It processes all that incoming data and helps you form emotional responses, decisions, and even your sense of self. It's where I feel hot turns into I'm uncomfortable, or my stomach hurts becomes I'm anxious. Ever get hangry? That's your body's interoceptive signal for hunger, triggering mood regulation areas in the brain. Your glucose dips, your body sends out alerts, and suddenly that slow driver in front of you is personally responsible for ruining your life. And it works both ways. Psychological states like anxiety can make you more sensitive to bodily signals. You might notice your heartbeat more, feel more aware of your breathing. Even your stomach might churn, not because it's broken, but because your brain's interpreting your insides differently. This is especially prominent in people with panic disorder, who often report heightened sensitivity to interoceptive cues. Their heart races slightly, and their brain interprets it as danger. Feedback loop activated. Meanwhile, individuals on the autism spectrum sometimes experience interoception differently. Some may not notice hunger or temperature changes. Others feel internal sensations in overwhelming waves. It's not better or worse, it's just different wiring. And then there are people with alexithymia, a condition where it's hard to identify or describe emotions. Many of them also show altered interoceptive awareness. If you can't feel what your body is telling you, it becomes much harder to name what you're feeling. But here's something weird and wonderful. Interoception can be trained. Mindfulness practices, breathwork, yoga, and body scanning meditations all aim to boost your awareness of internal sensations. It's not just relaxation, it's a sensory skill. In fact, when you take a deep breath and notice how it feels, how your ribs expand, how your shoulders shift, how your belly rises, you're engaging interoception directly. You're listening inward. Some scientists even argue that consciousness itself is built on interoception. The idea is that your sense of self isn't just a stream of thoughts, it's the result of constant monitoring of your internal state. You are your heartbeat, your breath, your gut, your tension. Without those signals, who are you really? One fringe tidbit for your sleepy brain. Octopuses, despite having distributed nervous systems, show interoceptive-like behavior. They adjust their body shape and energy use based on internal state, despite having no centralized brain like ours. Turns out, knowing what's going on inside isn't just a human thing. And let's talk guts. Your intestines are packed with sensory neurons, part of what's often called your second brain, the enteric nervous system. It has about 500 million neurons, more than in your spinal cord, and it constantly chats with your brain through the vagus nerve, one of the busiest roads in your body's information highway. That butterfly in the stomach feeling before a date, that's real. That sudden nausea before speaking in public, also real. Your gut isn't just digesting food, it's reporting your emotional state. Even your immune system plays a role in interoception. Inflammation can trigger a cascade of internal signals that make you feel tired, achy, and irritable. Your body's way of saying, lie down, human. We're busy fighting microscopic nonsense. Of course, it's not perfect. Some people misinterpret interoceptive signals, especially during health anxiety or hypochondria. A minor twinge becomes a sign of doom. A skipped heartbeat becomes a heart attack. It's not overreaction, it's your sensory system acting without full context. But your body isn't trying to mess with you, it's just trying to keep you updated. Right now, your interoceptive system is humming quietly. Your brain is tracking your breath, your blood pressure, your gut contents, your hydration levels, your core temperature, and your muscle tension, all without waking you up. And the beauty of it, you don't need to do anything, it just happens. Still, when you tune in, when you really listen, you start to sense the rhythms within. The heartbeat against your pillow, the subtle tension easing from your jaw, the low growl of your stomach reminding you that yes, breakfast exists. You don't just have a body, you live in it. And thanks to interoception, you can hear its voice. You're standing in a forest clearing. The air is still. Your phone has no signal. Your compass is buried somewhere in your backpack, and yet, somehow, you feel like you're facing north. Why? You can't see magnetic fields. You can't hear them hum. But maybe, just maybe, you can sense them. This is the controversial, wonderfully weird realm of magnetoception, the hypothesized ability of humans to detect Earth's magnetic field. Now, before you roll your eyes and write this off as pseudoscience, hold on. We know for certain that animals do it. Migratory birds navigate entire continents using magnetic cues. Sea turtles return to the exact beach where they were born, guided by a magnetic map locked into their nervous systems. Even some bacteria align themselves with geomagnetic poles. But humans, that's where the debates begin. Historians still argue whether early human navigation practices, like Polynesian wayfinding or Viking sunstones, hinted at an unconscious magnetic sense, or simply relied on keen environmental observation. There's no conclusive historical proof of humans using magnetoreception directly, but there's mounting modern curiosity. In recent years, a handful of neuroscience studies have raised eyebrows. One of the most notable, conducted in a dark, soundproof chamber, exposed participants to rotating magnetic fields while monitoring their brain waves. The results: in some subjects, parts of the brain, particularly the alpha waves, showed distinct changes when the field rotated in specific directions. They didn't consciously feel anything, but their brains registered it. That study alone doesn't prove magnetoreception exists in humans, but it suggests something is there, some kind of passive awareness. It's like your brain noticing a shift in background noise, even if you never consciously heard a sound. Here, how it might work if it does. Some animals have magnetite, an iron-based mineral, embedded in their tissues, tiny compass needles buried in the body. A few studies have found trace magnetite in the human brain, especially near the ethmoid bone behind the nose. Whether it's functional or just evolutionary leftovers is still up for debate. Another theory involves cryptochromes, light-sensitive proteins in the eye that may respond to magnetic fields. Birds use these proteins for navigation, and humans have cryptochromes too. They're involved in circadian rhythms, but some researchers suspect they might do more, like acting as a biological compass tuned to light and magnetism. Let's be clear, if you do have magnetoreception, it's weak, barely noticeable, like trying to hear a whisper at a rock concert. But even that tiny whisper might shape how you orient yourself in space. Some people claim they can sense direction intuitively. They always know which way is north. They're the human equivalents of homing pigeons. Others, maybe you, get lost in parking garages and need Google Maps to find the exit. So if this magnetic sense exists, it's probably more pronounced in some people than others. A fun fringe tidbit. In Japan, there's a tiny subset of folks who claim they always sleep with their heads facing north, claiming they sleep more soundly and wake up more refreshed. There's no solid science behind it yet, but it does make you wonder what your body might be quietly tuning into while you sleep. And if that's not strange enough, try this. During magnetic storms, those solar-induced disruptions in Earth's magnetic field, some people report headaches, unease, even vivid dreams. Are they just sensitive to atmospheric changes? Or is something deeper whispering to their nervous systems? No one knows. Magnetoreception, if real, may not be about navigation at all. It could be tied to mood, alertness, or even hormone regulation. After all, if cryptochromes are involved, that pulls in your sleep-wake cycle, your melatonin levels, and more. Your compass might be less about maps and more about internal rhythm. And consider this. Astronauts in orbit beyond Earth's magnetic field often report a sense of directional disorientation. They lose the ability to feel down. They also sometimes report changes in mood and sleep quality. Could that be partly due to magnetoreception being cut off? Again, just a theory, but one that keeps resurfacing. Even your phone recognizes magnetic fields. It uses a magnetometer to help with orientation and compass apps. But you don't get an alert. No icon pops up to say, you're facing northeast. And yet, deep down, something in your biology might still be humming in tune with the planet. Right now, as you lie there in the dark, Earth's magnetic field is passing through you, gently, constantly. A global current running from pole to pole. It doesn't spark or buzz. It doesn't trigger any alarms. But your body, ancient and electric, might just be listening. It's not outlandish to imagine that early humans used this sense more. Navigating by gut feeling, settling where sleep came easiest, where the winds and the earth aligned just so. Maybe your ancestors followed the pull of something unseen. Maybe that instinct hasn't disappeared, just faded beneath centuries of cities, satellites, and GPS. maybe it's still there, a low hum, a soft tug in the background. You're not a compass, you're not a bird. But tonight, as you drift deeper into stillness, you just might be facing north, and somewhere inside, your body knows it. You're sitting quietly, maybe with your hand resting on your thigh or your head nestled into a pillow. Nothing's moving, the room's still. But then something, a faint ripple through your skin, a low hum in your fingertips. You feel it not as sound, but as vibration. And no, it's not your phone. This is vibrotactile perception, a little-known but crucial sense that lets your body detect the tiniest oscillations through your skin, muscles, and even bones. You probably don't think about it often, but your brain is constantly tuned to the subtle rumble of the world around you. And it matters more than you'd expect. Let's start with the obvious. Vibration helps you hear. Your ears don't just pick up sound through the air. They sense mechanical vibrations through the cochlea, a fluid-filled spiral deep in your skull. But that's only the glamorous part. You also feel sound through your body. Those deep bass notes that thump in your chest at concerts. That's not just volume, it's mechanoreception, your skin and bones responding to pressure waves in the air. Even at rest, your body is a vibration detector. Tiny hair-like structures in your skin, specifically the Pacinian corpuscles, are exquisitely sensitive to high-frequency vibration. These little spiral-wrapped sensors can detect movements as small as 10 nanometers. That's 10,000 times smaller than a grain of sand. And they're fast, like lightning fast. They relay information to your brain almost instantly, helping you detect when something is buzzing, shaking, or subtly shifting against your skin. Historians still argue whether ancient cultures recognized vibration as a separate sense. The ancient Chinese practice of Qigong often emphasizes internal tremors or energy vibrations, though modern science views those more metaphorically. Still, early musicians and builders understood vibration intuitively. They designed instruments and temples to amplify it. But it's modern research that's finally giving vibration its spotlight. Consider this. When you walk barefoot across a wooden floor, you feel someone approaching from behind, even if they're silent. That's vibration traveling through the structure and up into your legs. Your brain registers it faster than your ears do. Or think about using a power drill or a steering wheel on a bumpy road. You read the machine's feedback through your hands. You feel the vibration shift when something goes wrong, an unbalanced tire, a jammed bit. That's your body decoding vibration in real time, like a mechanic fluent in tactile Morse code. In fact, surgeons, musicians, and blind individuals often show heightened vibrotactile awareness. They learn to rely on it, feeling the slight buzz of tension in a violin string, the subtle feedback of surgical tools through latex gloves, the low-frequency hum of an approaching vehicle through a cane. One fringe tidbit. Some researchers believe ancient shamans used rhythmic drumming not just for ritual, but to stimulate specific vibrotactile frequencies in the body, altering awareness, grounding attention, and inducing trance-like states. Modern drum therapy still taps into this idea. And here's the twist. Vibration detection doesn't just come from your skin. Your bones can pick it up too. Ever held a tuning fork against your skull? The sound bypasses your ears entirely, traveling through bone directly to your inner ear. This is called bone conduction, and it's why some headphones don't go in your ears, they go on your cheekbones. It's also why you can still hear your voice underwater, or why dentists sometimes send shivers down your spine without even touching a nerve. Your bones are basically tuning forks, and vibration is their song. And then there's low-frequency vibration, the kind you feel more than hear. Thunder rumbling from far away, a truck engine idling half a block down, the cat jumping off the counter behind you. You feel all of these not as discrete events, but as little pulses in the environment. Your body responds, even if you don't consciously notice. Fun fact, elephants can detect low-frequency rumbles through their feet. Some researchers believe they can hear distant thunder or approaching herds miles away by picking up seismic vibration. Humans don't do it nearly as well, but we're not totally numb to it. Ever been startled awake by something that didn't make a sound, but made a vibe? That's your vibrotactile sense pulling you out of sleep before your ears had time to panic. And let's talk about haptics, the tech world's word for artificial vibration. That buzz when your phone gets a text, that's a custom-designed vibration pattern your skin has learned to recognize. Some companies are even experimenting with wearable tech that uses subtle vibration cues to guide blind people through cities, give directional prompts to runners, or translate spoken language into skin-based pulses for the deaf and hard of hearing. Vibration is communication. Even in emotion, when you feel your chest flutter during stress or excitement, that's a low-level tremor your nervous system sends outward. Your voice shakes, your hands tremble. Your body's emotional broadcast often starts as vibration. And it goes both ways. Some studies suggest certain kinds of vibration, particularly low-frequency, rhythmic ones, can actually calm the nervous system. That's the science behind weighted blankets, vibration therapy, and even the hum of a fan in your bedroom. Right now, as you lie still, you're surrounded by micro-vibrations, the distant hum of traffic, the low-frequency buzz of power lines, the nearly silent oscillation of your ceiling fan. Most of it goes unnoticed, but your skin is listening. Your bones feel it, your muscles adjust, your brain parses it like a secret code. You're not just hearing the world, you're feeling it. And when the world goes quiet, truly quiet, what's left isn't silence, it's stillness, which in its own way is just another kind of vibration, paused. You breathe in, not deeply, not dramatically, just enough to fill your lungs with the next soft wave of air. You're not thinking about it. You're not analyzing the oxygen content, but your body is, every single second. This is chemoreception, a quiet sense operating behind the scenes, tracking the invisible gases in your bloodstream. Not taste, not smell. This is deeper, more primal. You have built-in detectors, chemoreceptors, that monitor the levels of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH in your blood. They're stationed in places like your carotid bodies on either side of your neck and your aortic arch down by the heart. These little sensors are on constant alert, adjusting your breathing, heart rate, and blood flow without ever asking permission. Let's say the room gets stuffy. CO2 begins to build. Your chemoreceptors notice the change and whisper to your brainstem, "Hey, oxygen's dipping and carbon dioxide's climbing. Maybe breathe a little faster." And you do automatically. No need to gasp or panic, just a subtle shift in your inhale. This is your body's internal air traffic control. And unlike your other senses, this one isn't about detecting the outside world. It's about monitoring the invisible chemistry of your own inner environment. Without it, you'd suffocate in your sleep or faint in the middle of a yawn. Historians still argue whether early theories of respiration even acknowledged this kind of internal sensing. Ancient Greeks like Galen thought lungs simply cooled the blood like tiny biological fans. It wasn't until the 18th century that chemists like Lavoisier began to understand gas exchange, and even later before anyone realized the brain was keeping tabs on blood chemistry in real time. And this sense isn't just about survival, it shapes your behavior. Ever felt anxious in a crowded elevator or on a plane before takeoff? That tight-chested unease might not be purely psychological. It could be your chemoreceptors subtly reacting to increased CO2 levels or reduced airflow. The body notices before the mind can explain. Even emotional states are tied to your breathing chemistry. High CO2 levels trigger a primitive alarm system, activating areas of the brain associated with fear and panic. Some panic attacks may actually begin as respiratory glitches, a few shallow breaths, a CO2 buildup, and suddenly your brain thinks it's under siege. This is why breathing exercises work. Slow, deliberate breaths reduce CO2, rebalance blood pH, and send a calm it down memo to the brain. Not because breathwork is magic, but because you're literally reprogramming your gas sensing system. A fun fringe tidbit: free divers, those brave souls who dive hundreds of feet underwater on a single breath, train their chemoreception to resist the panic response. They learn to override the brain's CO2 alarms, extending breath hold times far beyond what most of us could handle. They're not just tough, they're recalibrated. And here's something delightfully weird. The urge to breathe doesn't come from low oxygen. It comes from high carbon dioxide. You could have low oxygen for quite a while before your brain complains, but the moment CO2 rises, alarms go off. That's the primary trigger. Which is why breathing into a paper bag can stop a hyperventilation episode. It reintroduces CO2 and tells your brain, "We're okay, calm down." Not that I'm recommending paper bags at bedtime. Your pillow is stressful enough. Chemoreception also plays a key role in sleep. Your body keeps tabs on oxygen and CO2 all night, adjusting your breathing rhythm automatically. People with sleep apnea, where breathing pauses temporarily, often have disrupted chemoreception. Their systems don't catch the oxygen dips fast enough, leading to frequent waking, snoring, and those morning headaches that feel like someone tap danced on your skull. And what about high altitudes? Up in the mountains, the air is thinner. Less oxygen, more breathing required. Your chemoreceptors adjust, making you breathe faster, even while you sleep. Over days, your body adapts. Your red blood cell count rises. You get winded walking to the bathroom, but eventually you level out. That's your hidden sense of blood chemistry at work. Your internal chemical barometer, constantly recalibrating to meet the moment. Even newborns rely on chemoreception. The first breath of life isn't just reflex, it's a response to a sharp drop in oxygen after leaving the womb. The baby inhales, the sensors fire, and just like that, a new body joins the breathing world. Some studies even suggest differences in chemoreception sensitivity might explain why certain people struggle with conditions like panic disorder, altitude sickness, or chronic fatigue. It's not just about willpower or fitness, it's about how finely tuned your internal sensors are. And let's not forget your pH levels, the acid-base balance of your blood. When things get too acidic or too alkaline, your chemoreceptors help adjust respiration to restore balance. It's chemistry class, but with higher stakes and fewer beakers. Right now, as you lie there still and quiet, your chemoreceptors are awake. They don't sleep. They don't daydream. They sample your blood like tiny flavor testers, making sure everything's on spec. They notice the shallow rise and fall of your chest. They monitor the faintest shifts in your breath. They adjust everything from your pulse to your brain activity without ever making a sound. You don't feel them, but they feel you. And when the air grows still and the night stretches on, they'll still be there, scanning, sampling, breathing with you. One quiet breath at a time. You roll onto your side, adjusting your weight, maybe without even thinking. Your spine realigns. Your ribs shift. Your body knows you're now tilted. Not because your eyes saw anything or your ears picked it up, but because another quiet sense just reported in. Your gravitational sense. We tend to lump gravity in with balance, or maybe assume it's just the background setting for the vestibular system to do its thing. But the truth is, your body has a deep, instinctive, ever-present sense of down. Not metaphorical down, literal, physical, unyielding gravity. Right now, every part of you knows which direction the earth is pulling. Your ankles feel it in the stretch of ligaments. Your spine compresses just slightly. Your skin feels the pressure of the blanket pressing down. That constant force isn't just being tolerated, it's being sensed. Gravitational perception involves a tag team of systems. Your vestibular system, yes, but also your muscles, joints, skin, and even your internal organs, all working together to read the downward tug of 9.8 meters per second squared. This is why you can stand upright, close your eyes, and still maintain posture. Your body doesn't need to see down, it feels it. Historians still argue whether early physiologists understood this sense at all. Most pre-modern thinkers assumed gravity was just a background condition, not something the body actively measured. But astronauts, modern-day human guinea pigs, changed that. They reported intense spatial disorientation in zero gravity, even with eyes open and oriented. Suddenly, scientists realized our sense of gravity isn't passive. It's a full-on, multi-system sensory experience. Take away gravity, and the body doesn't just float, it flounders. Let's break this down. The otolith organs in your inner ear, tiny chambers filled with microscopic crystals, shift depending on your orientation relative to gravity. If you tilt your head forward, the crystals roll, bending tiny hairs and sending a signal. Hey, we're not vertical anymore. It's like having a tiny spirit level built into your skull. But the otoliths can't do it alone. Your muscles and joints also contain stretch receptors and pressure sensors that register how much weight they're bearing. If your left foot feels heavier than your right, your body subtly adjusts. That's gravity, quietly reshaping your posture. Even your skin helps. The pressure on your back as you lie down, the slight pull in your shoulders when standing, it's all part of the feedback loop. You feel down through your flesh. Ever ridden an elevator and felt that strange lightness or heaviness for a split second as it accelerates or stops? That's your gravitational sense flickering. Your body momentarily unsure how much weight it's supposed to feel. And when it goes wrong, things get surreal. Astronauts in orbit often report a total loss of spatial intuition. Without gravity, there's no up or down, only arbitrary directions. As a result, some get sick, some disoriented, and some just spin gently like socks in a dryer, trying to figure out how to eat upside down. They have to retrain their brains to live without gravity, and when they come back to Earth, the re-entry is just as strange. Muscles sag, heads feel heavy, limbs feel glued to the floor. The gravitational sense reboots, but clumsily. This sense also plays tricks. Ever tried a virtual reality headset with motion but no physical movement? You might feel like you're falling or spinning, even though you're perfectly still. That's your gravitational sense freaking out. Your inner ear says one thing, your eyes say another, and your brain throws a tantrum. A fringe tidbit for your sleepy brain. In the 1970s, some fringe researchers floated the idea that the gravitational sense contributes to empathy, that our awareness of weight, posture, and motion helps us physically mirror others. The science is debatable, but the poetry of it, chef's kiss. And gravity isn't always external. When you ride a roller coaster or accelerate in a car, you feel inertial forces, that resistance to movement we often mistake as being pushed back. Your body treats these forces like temporary changes in gravity, even though technically, you're the one moving. Pilots train for this constantly. At high speeds and steep turns, they experience increased G-forces, which press their bodies down with brutal intensity. To counteract blackouts, they learn to tense muscles and control breathing, all to manage a sensory system built for life at 1G. And speaking of pressure, your bones respond to gravity too. Astronauts lose bone density in space because without gravity's constant compression, bones stop reinforcing themselves. The same goes for muscles. They weaken. The gravitational sense isn't just a feeling, it's a workout. Even your blood flow is influenced by gravity. Stand up too fast and blood rushes from your head. Your baroreceptors, tiny blood pressure sensors, kick in to stabilize things. That head rush you sometimes feel, that's a momentary tug-of-war between gravity and circulation. So yes, gravity is felt, constantly. You feel it in the curve of your spine, the pressure behind your heels, the weight of your limbs when you finally lie still. It's a sense we rarely thank, but it keeps our bodies aligned with the earth itself. Without it, your orientation would dissolve. Your posture would drift. You'd be lost in space, literally. And right now, in the darkness of your room, gravity is pulling gently on every part of you, down toward the bed, down into the mattress, down into stillness. You don't resist it, you welcome it. Because here, weight is peace. And your body, clever, constant, quietly alert, knows exactly which way the world is turning. You pick up your coffee mug, lift it to your lips, and take a sip without looking. You don't spill, you don't hesitate, you just move, effortlessly, smoothly. And somehow you know exactly how hard to grip, how much to lift, and what angle to tilt without dunking your nose in hot liquid. That's not luck, that's not muscle memory. That's stretch sensing, a hidden sense deep in your muscles and tendons that helps coordinate movement without conscious thought. It's easy to think of motion as something you decide to do, like a director yelling action. But beneath that intention is an orchestra of sensors giving you real-time feedback about tension, length, and force. The main stars of this show: muscle spindles and Golgi tendon organs. Muscle spindles are embedded inside your skeletal muscles. They're constantly measuring how much a muscle is stretching, how fast it's stretching, and whether you should do something about it. Golgi tendon organs, meanwhile, are nestled at the junction between muscle and tendon. Their job: detecting tension. They monitor how much force is being generated and can shut down a muscle's contraction if it gets too strong, basically stepping in and saying, "Hey, let's not tear anything today." Together, these sensors create a dynamic internal map of motion. They let you catch a falling object without snapping your arm in half, or adjust your grip on a slippery doorknob before it rotates out of your hand. Historians still argue whether early physicians recognized this feedback loop as a sensory system, or just considered it part of generic movement. It wasn't until the early 20th century that scientists like Charles Sherrington, our old friend from proprioception, began describing these mechanisms in detail. Before that, muscles were seen as obedient ropes, not responsive data collectors. But now we know, movement is never blind. Stretch receptors feed your brain a constant stream of updates. Even when you're sitting still, they report on posture, alignment, readiness. You're always feeling yourself, literally. Think about walking across uneven ground. Your foot hits a rock, your ankle starts to tilt, and in milliseconds, your muscles adjust. Not because you planned it, but because those stretch and tension sensors activated a reflex arc that stabilized you mid-step. This same system lets gymnasts flip, pianists glide, and toddlers wobble toward their first steps without reading an instruction manual. But it gets even more interesting when you stop moving. Even in rest, your muscle sensors track tone, the low-level tension that keeps your limbs from turning into cooked spaghetti. It's why you don't collapse like a marionette when you fall asleep on the couch. Your muscles remain quietly tuned. This tone is especially important for posture. Your brain gets constant feedback from stretch receptors in your back, neck, and legs. They let you stand without slouching, okay, without completely slouching, and adjust when you're listing like a sinking ship at your desk. And yes, this is also the root of that classic leg-crossing jerk you sometimes get as you fall asleep. Your brain misinterprets a drop in muscle tone as falling, and your stretch sensors send a panicked message to kick. That twitch, that's your nervous system going, "Nope, we're not dying tonight." A delightful fringe tidbit: some elite athletes can consciously tune into specific muscle spindles, adjusting stretch and force mid-movement for extreme precision. Think of a baseball pitcher changing grip tension mid-throw, or a dancer shifting ankle load in midair. It's not magic, it's microperception. And then there's muscle memory, a concept often misunderstood. It's not that your muscles remember, it's that your nervous system has optimized the feedback loops. Your brain builds efficient maps for movements you repeat, like riding a bike or tying shoelaces. The more you train those loops, the less conscious effort is required. You don't think through every motion, you let the sensors do the work. Even your handwriting is shaped by this system. You don't redraw each letter from scratch. Your hand moves with a practiced pressure and stretch pattern. That's why your signature stays recognizable, even if you haven't signed anything since the early 2000s. Stretch sensing also protects you. When you lift something too heavy, Golgi tendon organs can trigger autogenic inhibition, stopping the contraction before injury occurs. It's like an internal safety brake. Of course, in high-stress situations, your body may override this adrenaline-fueled feats of strength, but the risk is real. This system also plays into flexibility. Ever tried to stretch your hamstrings and felt your muscles resisting, almost pulling back? That's your stretch receptors sounding the alarm. With gentle persistence, they ease up, but too much, too fast, and they'll dig in their heels. Yoga, Tai Chi, martial arts, all of these practices build not just flexibility, but a refined awareness of internal stretch signals. It's proprioception's more technical cousin, quietly keeping limbs from tearing like wet tissue. And if it ever breaks down, the results are strange. Some neurological disorders can impair stretch sensing, making movement jerky, uncoordinated, or wildly misjudged. People with certain types of neuropathy may reach for a glass and knock it over, or stand up too quickly and topple. Not because they're weak, but because their sensors are offline. But most of the time, it just works. Right now, as you lie still, your stretch sensors are gently recalibrating. They note how far your limbs extend, how your spine curves, how much tension is in your calves. You're not thinking about it, but your body is. Maybe you shift slightly. A shoulder tightens, then relaxes. Your leg uncurls. That's your internal feedback loop adjusting you into comfort. No conscious commands, just a cascade of tiny updates. Like little engineers with clipboards, checking cable tension and flagging irregularities. Quiet, constant, invisible. You're not a puppet, but if you were, these would be the strings. And you, lucky sleeper, would never even have to pull them. You're not moving, you're not speaking, but your body is still listening. Specifically, the tiniest parts of you, hair cells. Not the strands on your head, but the microscopic, cilia-lined cells tucked inside your ears and scattered across your skin. These tiny, swaying structures are ancient sentinels of sensation. And while they don't grab headlines like sight or hearing, they're constantly translating the world's subtlest movements into meaningful data. Most people only associate hair cells with hearing. Fair. Your cochlea, that coiled seashell in your inner ear, is packed with rows of mechanosensitive hair cells. When sound enters your ear, it causes fluid in the cochlea to ripple. That movement bends the hair cells, which fire signals to your brain. And just like that sound. But it doesn't stop there. Hair cells are also key to balance. In your vestibular system, the semicircular canals and otolith organs we chatted about earlier, more hair cells float in fluid, detecting movement, tilt, acceleration, and gravity. It's like having motion detectors inside your head. Historians still argue whether early anatomists grasped how delicate and crucial these cells are. The ancient Greeks believed the ear was a resonance chamber, but it wasn't until the invention of microscopes in the 17th century that hair cells were even seen. Today, we know they're some of the most specialized and fragile cells in your entire body. And once they're damaged, they don't grow back. That's why loud concerts, headphones cranked to max, or even a single blast of firecrackers can permanently dull your hearing. You're not tired of noise. You're burning out the microscopic forests inside your ears. But here's the twist. Hair cells aren't just in your ears. Incredibly, some researchers have discovered tactile hair cells embedded in certain parts of your skin, especially areas tuned to movement and airflow. These aren't long, flowing hairs like the ones on your head. They're microstructures that respond to touch, stretch, and especially vibration. Ever feel someone walk into a room before they say a word? Or sense a shift in air pressure as someone passes by? That's not magic. That's hair cells and mechanoreceptors in your skin detecting slight air displacement and pressure gradients. Even the hairs on your arms play a sensory role. When they shift, say, from a breeze, a nearby presence, or even static, you feel it. Not just on the surface, but as a tingling, full-body awareness. That's called trichotactic perception. No, it's not a spell. It's the way your nervous system interprets directional pressure through body hair. This system is so sensitive that blind individuals can often detect obstacles by sensing the way air moves around them. It's not echolocation exactly, but a cousin of it. The body mapping space through movement and airflow. A fun fringe tidbit: some fish, like sharks and catfish, use a similar system called the lateral line, a series of hair cell structures that detect underwater vibrations and movement. Scientists think this evolved into our inner ear's hair cells over millions of years, which means, in a way, your ears still remember the ocean. Let's not forget the startle reflex, that immediate jolt you feel when you hear a sudden noise or feel a sharp touch. Hair cells play a role in this too. When a loud or sudden vibration activates them, the signal skips conscious thought and jumps straight to your reflex arcs. Your shoulders hunch, your breath catches, your eyes widen. You're primed before you're aware. And what about whispering? The ASMR crowd has it right. Soft, crisp sounds like tapping, brushing, or crinkling directly stimulate certain auditory hair cells and skin mechanoreceptors. For some, it triggers a pleasant tingling, even a wave of calm. That's not just mood. That's hair cells throwing a party. But the magic goes even deeper. Hair cells also detect motion within your own body. The fluid waves in your inner ear don't just register external movement. They help you track your own head's motion. Close your eyes and slowly nod. You feel the shift, even in darkness. That's hair cells in motion, literally and figuratively. And when they malfunction, the world tilts. Vertigo, nausea, ringing in the ears, even chronic imbalance. Conditions like Meniere's disease and labyrinthitis involve dysfunction or damage to vestibular hair cells. When those signals get scrambled, the whole world feels off-axis. And yet they are silent. You'll never hear a hair cell complain, but right now they're working. As you lie there, still and soft, the gentle airflow across your skin is being registered. The faint rustle of fabric, the hum of the world. Your ears are not just hearing sound, they're feeling it, translating air into information. Your skin also listening. Not to words, but to space, to motion, to shifts in the air that tell your nervous system you're not alone in the room, even if nothing stirs. You are, in the truest sense, a listening body. Not just with ears, not just with thoughts, but with millions of tiny, swaying sensors dancing like fields of grass in the wind, waiting for a whisper of change. And as the night deepens and the world quiets, they keep humming, a lullaby in micro-vibration. A lullaby you don't hear, but your body does. So drift, let them listen. Your joints ache just a little when it's about to rain. Maybe your sinuses throb the day before a thunderstorm. Or your knees, your ever-faithful, slightly judgmental knees start whispering, low pressure's coming. You're not imagining it. You are, in fact, a walking barometer. This quiet, often overlooked sense is your body's subtle ability to detect atmospheric pressure, those invisible weight changes in the air around you. It's not one of the flashy senses. It won't write poetry or win any medals. But when the air shifts, it lets you know. Scientists refer to this as barosption, and while it's less understood than, say, taste or touch, it's very real. Right now, the Earth's atmosphere is pressing down on you with about 14.7 pounds per square inch of force. That's equivalent to wearing an invisible stack of bowling balls across your entire body. You don't feel it most of the time because your internal pressure balances it out. But when the external pressure changes, oh, your body pays attention. Especially your joints, sinuses, and inner ears. Let's start with joints. Inside your knees, shoulders, and other moving parts, you've got synovial fluid, a slick substance that cushions and lubricates. That fluid responds to pressure. When barometric pressure drops, like before a storm, it creates a kind of internal imbalance. Your joint tissue expands slightly. Swelling increases. Nerves become a bit more irritable. Cue the creaks, twinges, and that familiar it's gonna rain vibe. Historians still argue whether reports of weather bones from ancient times were observational wisdom or pure coincidence. Some Roman and Greek texts mention pain increasing with storms, but the science didn't catch up until much later. Even today, Barospan research is ongoing and surprisingly contentious. Some scientists say the evidence is anecdotal. Others point to studies showing that changes in barometric pressure correlate with increased pain in people with arthritis, migraines, and sinus issues. The debate continues, but the knees never lie. Let's talk sinuses. Your skull is full of air pockets, sinuses that equalize pressure between your head and the outside world. When atmospheric pressure drops, those air-filled chambers may not adapt instantly, creating a vacuum effect. This can trigger sinus pain, pressure headaches, or even that weird, foggy sensation like your brain been wrapped in bubble wrap. Your inner ear joins the party too. As a key player in balance and motion sensing, it uses pressure to help orient you in space. When barometric pressure shifts, it can throw off your endolymph fluid levels, leading to dizziness or vertigo. You may not know why you feel a little off, but your ear does. And guess what? Fish experience this too. Some deep-sea species can detect pressure changes so small they act like living tide charts. Birds use it for flight. Insects rely on it to predict storms. We humans, we're not as refined, but we've still got the signal, faint but persistent. Here's a fringe tidbit. Certain monks in the Himalayas claim they can detect storms approaching by meditating and listening to their body's sensations. While science hasn't formally tested this, it's possible they've simply cultivated a sensitivity to pressure-induced shifts in breath, heartbeat, or muscle tension. And speaking of muscles, low pressure can influence them too. Reduced pressure may lead to decreased oxygen saturation, slightly affecting energy levels, coordination, and even mood. That stormy day sluggishness, it's not just gloom, it's your blood chemistry playing along with the clouds. Barospan isn't just for the sick or weather sensitive either. It's essential at high altitudes. As you ascend, atmospheric pressure drops and your body kicks into adaptation mode, breathing faster, altering red blood cell count, adjusting fluid distribution. You feel it as ear pops, shortness of breath, or dizziness. That's your internal barometer crying out, too high, too fast. Scuba divers, astronauts, pilots, all trained to respect barometric changes. Even a minor pressure imbalance between your inner ear and environment can cause barotrauma, pain, disorientation, even ruptured eardrums. Your body does everything it can to equalize, and when it fails, you definitely notice. But back on Earth, in your bed in the calm of a still evening, this sense keeps working silently. As a storm approaches, your body may subtly brace. You may toss a little more. Your sinuses swell just slightly. Your breath shifts. It's not dramatic, it's not even uncomfortable, it's just detectable. Some people swear they can feel the weather change in their bones. They're not wrong. Your skin even plays a minor role here. Subtle shifts in air pressure can change the sensation of touch, texture, or airflow. Things might feel heavier. Clothes might cling more tightly. That strange off feeling you can't quite name, that's pressure pressing gently from a different angle. And your emotions, yes, they can swing with the barometer. Low pressure has been loosely associated with increases in anxiety, irritability, and fatigue. No one's fully nailed down why, but it could be tied to oxygen levels, serotonin shifts, or the body's general response to environmental flux. It's not just about the weather, it's about the subtle physics of existence. Right now, as the night thickens around you, the atmosphere still presses down. Even in your stillness, your body is measuring the weight of the sky. It knows if the air is rising or falling, if the clouds are dragging the pressure low, if change is coming. You are tuned quietly, automatically, to the planet's mood swings. You don't need a forecast, you are the forecast. And as you drift deeper into that weightless, barometrically balanced twilight, your body continues its quiet calculations, noticing, adapting, equalizing, all without waking you. You're not electric, not exactly, but deep inside there's a soft, steady current pulsing through your nerves. Your heart sparks in rhythm. Your brain hums with tiny surges of activity. Every thought, every breath, every twitch begins as electricity. So, what if your body could sense electricity too? This brings us to the strange and still debated realm of electroreception, a sense that, in animals at least, allows for the detection of electric fields. Sharks have it, so do rays, platypuses, knifefish, and even bees. But what about you? Well, that's where things get murky. Let's start with the confirmed facts. Electroreception is well established in certain animals. Sharks, for example, have specialized organs called ampullae of Lorenzini that detect the faint electrical signals emitted by the muscles of prey. Even a heartbeat under sand is enough to give away a hiding fish. Freshwater electric fish use electroreception not just for hunting, but for navigating murky rivers and even communicating. They generate weak electric fields and then detect distortions caused by nearby objects or other fish. Imagine echolocation, but with volts instead of sound. So if evolution handed this out, why don't we humans have it? Here, where things get weird. Historians still argue whether early medical practices that used electricity, like 18th century electrotherapy, tapped into something more than just muscle stimulation. Back then, some people claimed they could feel storms coming before lightning struck. Others described electric sensations when touching certain metals, long before static science had caught up. Modern researchers have explored whether humans can detect electric fields, particularly low-frequency electromagnetic changes in the environment. The results are inconclusive, but fascinating. One study found that people sitting in shielded rooms could, under certain conditions, detect changes in low-frequency electric fields with above-chance accuracy. They didn't know how, they couldn't explain it, but something registered. Is it truly electroreception? Or is it some secondary effect? Perhaps the electric field subtly activating skin receptors, or interacting with hair follicles, or tweaking the vestibular system. Nobody's sure. But what is clear is that your body already works closely with electricity. Every nerve impulse is a result of ions moving across a membrane, a wave of voltage change traveling like a whisper through your nervous system. Your heart, too, beats because of carefully timed electrical pulses generated in the sinoatrial node. And yes, there are sensors in your body tuned to bioelectric changes, especially in the skin and heart. Devices like ECGs and EEGs don't work unless your body is already broadcasting those signals. Could you feel these signals from outside your body? Maybe. A fringe tidbit. Some individuals claim to be sensitive to electromagnetic pollution, things like Wi-Fi, cell towers, or high-voltage lines. While mainstream science hasn't confirmed this sensitivity as a distinct biological condition, the symptoms they report, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, suggest that something is happening. Whether it's electric fields themselves or a complex tangle of psychological and environmental factors, we still don't know. But the very fact that the debate exists means we haven't closed the book on human electroreception. Here's something else to ponder. Your skin has tiny, weakly conductive properties. Sweat contains electrolytes which conduct electricity. In theory, this means your skin could interact with external fields in a subtle way, even if you're not consciously aware of it. There's also evidence that some hair cells in your cochlea and skin may be slightly responsive to electric gradients, not enough to give you superpowers, but perhaps enough to feel something faintly when conditions are just right. And what about your brain? Your pineal gland, deep in the center of your brain, has long been speculated to respond to electrical and magnetic signals. In some animals, it helps track geomagnetic orientation and daylight cycles. In humans, possibly related to circadian rhythms, possibly more. Let's not drift too far into science fiction, but it's worth asking, could we once have had a stronger electroreceptive sense that faded over time? Or do some individuals still have it, like a faint evolutionary echo? Consider this: before you feel a lightning strike, before the thunder rolls, sometimes the air itself changes. Your hair rises, your skin tingles, that static crackle, your body responds. That's not imagination. That's electric fields building in the atmosphere. And in those moments, your body might just know. It might not form a clear picture or send a message to your conscious mind, but something flickers under the surface, an ancient alert, a shimmer of awareness. Right now, as you lie still, surrounded by the gentle electric web of modern life, wires in your walls, circuits in your phone, distant towers blinking into the sky, your body hums with its own internal current. Your neurons fire, your heart pulses, your muscles rest in quiet readiness. And somewhere, just maybe, you are tuned in, not like a machine, but like a quiet antenna, receiving signals you don't fully understand. Maybe you've always been listening. Maybe you're still learning how. So rest easy, soft battery. Your current is strong. And you're still plugged in. The room is dark. Your eyes are closed. No light slips through the curtains. But something inside you knows it's not quite night anymore. Your body is already adjusting, shifting its chemistry, preparing to wake. Not because of a dream or a noise or a to-do list bubbling up in your subconscious, but because of light you cannot see. Welcome to non-visual photoreception, a hidden sense that lets your body detect light without seeing it. Let's be clear, you've got rods and cones in your retinas for actual sight, the kind that builds pictures and color and Netflix marathons. But you've also got a special kind of photoreceptor tucked deep in your eyes, the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, or IPRGC. Mouthful, yes, but what they do is quietly magical. These cells aren't concerned with shape, motion, or detail. They don't help you read or drive or appreciate sunsets. What they do is track brightness, raw, ambient light, like a light meter strapped directly to your circadian clock. And they don't even connect to the visual cortex like the rest of your vision system. They bypass that entirely, sending signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Remember that little circadian maestro from before. And also to parts of the brain that control mood, hormone release, and alertness. You could be blind, completely unable to form images, and these cells might still respond. In fact, they do. Historians still argue whether ancient architectural designs, like those of Egyptian temples or medieval monasteries, intuitively leveraged light for more than visibility, perhaps influencing mood or internal rhythms. Modern chronobiology suggests they might have been onto something. Because these light-detecting cells, they shape your entire internal schedule. They respond strongest to blue light like the early morning sky. When activated, they tell your brain, it's daytime, time to stop melatonin production and get going. And at night, in the absence of light, melatonin kicks back in. You start to yawn, your temperature drops, you slide into sleep. But if these cells detect light, especially blue light, after sunset the effect flips. Melatonin is suppressed. You feel alert, awake, Confused about why you're watching raccoon videos at 2 a.m. again? Yes, this is why your phone has a night mode. It's not to save your eyeballs. It's to avoid confusing your IPRGC into thinking it's noon. And the weirdest part, this light doesn't have to be strong. Even low levels of ambient light, like the glow of a hallway, a street lamp through curtains, or your alarm clock's LED, can nudge your photoreceptors. Subtle, but enough to shift your biological clock by minutes or hours over time. Ever camped out in nature with no artificial light and noticed how easily your sleep settled into a rhythm? That's your non-visual light sense syncing up with sunrise and sunset. No alarms required. On the flip side, think about jet lag. You fly to a new time zone and your body drags behind. Why? Because your IPRGC are still set to your old light-dark cycle. It takes time for them to realign. And until they do, you're a temporal tourist, half here, half there. But the influence doesn't stop with sleep. These non-visual photoreceptors also affect your mood. Studies have shown that bright light exposure, especially in the morning, boosts serotonin levels and can help with depression, particularly seasonal affective disorder. That winter gloom isn't just a metaphor. It's your photoreceptors quietly grieving the missing daylight. Fringe tidbit time. Some researchers have proposed light therapy not just for mood, but for cognitive performance. Certain light wavelengths at certain times may enhance focus, memory, and even athletic reaction times. It's like caffeine for your eyeballs, but without the jitters. And if you're wondering whether light can influence you even when you're not aware of it, yes, absolutely. One fascinating study placed blindfolded participants in rooms with ambient lighting of different wavelengths. Their melatonin levels still shifted depending on the type of light. No sight involved, just IPRGC doing their job. This means you may be more sensitive to your environment than you think. Even now, lying in the dark, your brain is gently asking, are we still in nighttime mode? And if it detects a sliver of dawn slipping past the curtain or the faint blue pulse of a notification light, it might say, actually, maybe start wrapping up this dream. That's not imagination, that's biology. This non-visual light sense also affects your pupils. Even when you're unconscious or in a coma, IPRGC can still trigger the pupil reflex in response to light. It's one of the tests doctors use to check brain function. Sight isn't needed, just the ambient cue. And one more twist, IPRGC may help regulate temperature, appetite, and even heart rate depending on the time of day. Light doesn't just wake you up, it reboots your body's settings. So what can you do with this knowledge? Well, maybe dim your screens before bed. Let morning light hit your face. Give your IPRGC a reason to believe it's day or night. Because your body isn't just reading the time by a clock, it's reading the sky. Right now it's scanning the darkness for signals. No images, no shapes, just the faint binary, light or no light. And that decision ripples through everything. Your sleep, your dreams, your hormones, your mind. You are not just a thinker, you are a photosensitive organism, quietly aligning yourself to the rhythms of the sun. Even with your eyes closed, even in the dark. You walk into a room and pause. No one said a word, but something feels off. A tension in the air, a shift in tone. You look around, yes, everyone's smiling technically, but your chest feels tight, your jaw tenses just slightly. You feel it. That's not just intuition. That's your body syncing to other bodies. A strange and subtle sense that lets you pick up on others' internal states, not through words or facial expressions, but through shared rhythms. Welcome to the shadowy realm of heartbeat synchronization and emotional entrainment. This isn't magic, it's physiology. Your heart doesn't beat alone, it listens, it adjusts, and sometimes, especially when you're near another person, it starts to mirror them. This is called physiological synchrony. It happens more than you'd think. Couples lying together often enter matching heart rhythms. Parents and infants sync up during skin-to-skin contact. Audience members watching a movie can show eerily aligned pulse patterns during key moments. And it happens without conscious effort. Your body is reading another body and tuning itself in response. It's not just the heart either. Your breathing, brain waves, even pupil dilation can synchronize with those around you. You yawn because someone else did. You laugh because others are laughing. You tense when a friend clenches their fists. It's like you're wired to feel with others. Historians still argue whether ancient rituals, like drumming circles, chanting, and group dances, were designed not just for spiritual experience, but to deliberately trigger collective physiological states. Modern researchers suggest they very likely were. The synchronized movement, the shared rhythms, it's a kind of emotional Wi-Fi. Everyone logs onto the same network. Let's zoom in on the heartbeat. Your autonomic nervous system regulates it, balancing between sympathetic fight or flight and parasympathetic rest and digest input. But it's also surprisingly malleable. External stimuli, music, movement, or even just sitting beside someone can cause micro-adjustments in heart rate. When you deeply connect with someone, emotionally, physically, or socially, your nervous systems begin to coordinate. Heart rates slow and rise together. Breathing aligns. In moments of intense connection, it's hard to tell whose body is leading and whose is following. This is particularly well documented in romantic partners. Studies using ECG monitors show that couples can reach near-identical heart rate variability patterns after just a few minutes of close interaction. They don't talk about it. They don't plan it. Their bodies just fall into rhythm. But this doesn't require intimacy. Teachers and students show synchrony during moments of learning. Musicians in a quartet do it while playing. Even strangers sitting quietly in a meditation class often synchronize without speaking a word. One fringe tidbit. Some researchers are experimenting with biofeedback devices that allow individuals to visualize their heart rhythms and consciously sync with others. Early results show potential for everything from conflict resolution to performance enhancement. Of course, this goes both ways. You can also pick up on dissonance. A rapid heartbeat in a crowd can trigger anxiety. A coworker's shallow breathing might make you feel tense, even if they haven't said anything. These shifts are subtle, often beneath conscious awareness, but they affect your mood, posture, even decision-making. It's not empathy in the emotional sense. It's empathy in the sensory sense. Your nervous system says, "This person feels tense, adjust accordingly." And sometimes, you don't realize it until you leave the room and suddenly feel lighter. That tension wasn't yours to begin with. This sense also plays into group behavior. Ever noticed how crowds move as one? At concerts, marches, or even moments of shared silence. It's not just visual mimicry, it's somatic resonance. When enough people fall into rhythm, the group takes on a kind of meta-awareness. Sociologists sometimes call this collective effervescence, a term coined by Emil Durkheim. He was describing religion, but it applies equally to flash mobs and soccer matches. The shared emotion becomes a physical experience. Your heartbeat says, "We are part of something." And this isn't limited to people. Your body can sync with music, with ocean waves, with a cat's purring. You fall asleep to the steady whoosh of a fan because your nervous system loves rhythm. Predictable, calming, familiar rhythm. Even your own voice affects your body. Ever noticed you're breathing slow when you speak in a soothing tone? That's vocal feedback creating internal entrainment. It's why people instinctively lower their voices to calm children or themselves. Right now, as you lie still, your body is listening, not just to the room, but to itself. Your heartbeat and breath are finding a rhythm. And if someone you care about is nearby, maybe just in the next room, you may even be syncing without knowing it. You won't hear a click. There's no announcement. Just two nervous systems quietly falling into alignment, like pendulums ticking in time. This isn't just poetic, it's measurable, it's real. And it matters, because being human isn't just about seeing and hearing. It's about tuning to each other, to emotion, to a pulse, a breath, a shared stillness. You're not alone in this rhythm. You never were. Even in sleep, your body is aware, not watching but sensing, not thinking but feeling along. One beat at a time. You walk past someone on the street, they don't speak, they barely glance your way, but still something about them makes your skin prickle. You can't explain it, just a gut sense that something's off, or just as easily a pull of comfort, a warmth, an odd familiarity. You're not just reading body language, you're inhaling human chemistry. Welcome to the subtle, subconscious world of chemosignaling, your body's ability to pick up on chemical cues released by others. Not through traditional smell, exactly, but through a kind of social sense. This is more than just BO or perfume. We're talking about microscopic chemical messengers, pheromones, immune markers, hormonal residues, and more, all swirling invisibly in the air, decoded not by your brain's olfactory cortex, but by a deeper, older, more primal system. You probably don't smell these cues consciously. They don't register like cinnamon or gasoline. Instead, they bypass your awareness, traveling straight to your limbic system, the brain's emotional control room. This is why some people make you feel instantly at ease, others don't. Historians still argue whether ancient civilizations intentionally manipulated scent for power or attraction. Egyptians wore perfume cones. Romans used scented oils during negotiations. Some theories suggest they weren't just covering body odor. They were enhancing or masking these deeper, subconscious signals. So what are we actually picking up? Let's start with the major histocompatibility complex, MHC for short. It's a set of genes involved in immune system function. And guess what? People can detect MHC differences through scent, even if they're not aware of it. In multiple studies, individuals rated the scent of worn t-shirts from strangers. The shirts with the most appealing smell almost always came from people with MHC genes different from the wearer's own. Why would your body care? Genetic diversity. Choosing a partner with a different MHC profile boosts the immune strength of potential offspring. Your nose is matchmaking at the molecular level. And it doesn't stop at attraction. Women's hormonal cycles influence scent and scent perception. During ovulation, some studies suggest that natural body odor becomes more appealing to potential mates. Conversely, women may become more sensitive to certain male pheromones during fertile windows. It's not manipulation. It's biology doing its awkward little dance. Let's talk about stress signals. When someone is afraid or anxious, they release specific chemical compounds through sweat. These aren't just byproducts, they're messages. Others nearby can subconsciously detect them, which may increase their own anxiety, alertness, or caution. You felt this, that moment in a tense room when your heart races, even though nothing's happened, or when a crowd feels off before any words are spoken. You're not being paranoid, you're chemically tuning in. One fringe tidbit. Researchers once collected sweat from people skydiving for the first time and exposed it to others in a lab. The recipients' brains lit up in areas associated with fear, even though they couldn't describe the smell or name what they were feeling. Your nose knows, even when you don't. Then there are infant-mother bonds, forged partly through chemosignals. Newborns recognize their mother's unique scent within days. Mothers, in turn, can identify their baby's scent from a group. This isn't just cute, it's crucial. It helps regulate feeding, bonding, and emotional development. Even adult family members tend to find each other's natural scent comforting, even if they'd never say so aloud. The scent of someone familiar calms the nervous system. It feels like home. And of course, animals do this too. Dogs greet each other nose first for a reason. Bees release alarm pheromones when stung. Ants use chemical trails to navigate. Compared to them, we're a bit clumsy, but not immune. Your vomeronasal organ, or VNO, is a tiny structure thought to help detect pheromones in many animals. In humans, its function is debated. Some say it's vestigial. Others argue it may still play a subtle role, even if our primary olfactory system carries more weight. Either way, you are not sent blind to emotional chemistry. That familiar smell of fear, it's real. And so is the scent of comfort, arousal, trust, even grief. Your body reads those signals constantly, building silent impressions of the people around you. Even in dreams. Yes, some research suggests that chemosignals can influence sleep behavior. For example, being exposed to the scent of a romantic partner can improve sleep quality and reduce stress hormones. You breathe in, and without waking, your body relaxes. It's why a shirt left on a pillow can still carry meaning. A hug lingers. A scent can summon memory more vividly than words. So what about artificial scents? Can perfumes mimic these cues? To a point. Some fragrance developers aim to enhance natural chemosignals. Others try to override them. But truly effective scent communication happens below the conscious level, in a language no lab has fully decoded. Right now, even in stillness, your body is releasing thousands of volatile organic compounds. They're floating invisibly in the air around you. Not dirty, not dramatic, just you in molecular form. And your body is listening, too, scanning the air, noting what feels safe, familiar, unknown, appealing, or alarming. You may never smell it outright, but your body feels it. That shift when someone enters the room, that calm when a loved one sits beside you, that instant, wordless connection. It's not just psychology, it's chemistry. So breathe deep. Your body is reading more than oxygen. It's tuning into the human current, one silent molecule at a time. Your stomach rumbles, not loudly, but just enough to get your attention. Maybe you ate a few hours ago, maybe you didn't. Either way, the message is clear. The conversation between your gut and your brain has resumed. It's not hunger, it's not digestion, it's communication. And it's happening through one of your most underrated sensory highways, the vagus nerve. This sprawling, whispering connection between your gut and brain is at the heart of what many now call the gut-brain axis, a two-way street of information, sensation, and emotional cues. You're not just thinking about your stomach, you're thinking with it. And it's thinking with you. Let's get anatomical for a moment. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, the longest and most complex of its class. It winds down from your brainstem, branching out through your throat, lungs, heart, liver, and most famously, your digestive tract. It carries signals in both directions, but about 80–90% of those signals go from the body to the brain. That's right, your gut is doing most of the talking. The brain, for the most part, listens. Historians still argue whether early theories of the gut instinct were metaphorical poetry or a forgotten understanding of physiology. Hippocrates believed health began in the belly. Chinese medicine often focused on abdominal energy centers. And modern research, it's slowly catching up. Today, scientists call this internal signaling interoception, yes, but the vagus nerve deserves its own shout-out. It doesn't just report on digestion. It relays mood-related information, helping regulate anxiety, stress, and even inflammation. Feeling butterflies in your stomach, vagus nerve. That sinking feeling when you get bad news, vagus nerve. A deep exhale that helps calm you down, yep, vagal tone. In fact, vagal tone, a measure of how active and responsive your vagus nerve is, correlates with emotional regulation, resilience, and even immune function. High vagal tone, you bounce back from stress faster. Low vagal tone, everything feels harder. And your gut plays a starring role in that process. Because your gut isn't just a food processor, it's a neural hub, sometimes called the second brain. The enteric nervous system in your digestive tract contains about 500 million neurons. That's more than your spinal cord. It regulates motility, secretion, and yes, communicates constantly with your central nervous system. And while it doesn't think in words or concepts, it does speak the language of chemistry. Your gut produces around 95% of the body's serotonin, that famous mood-regulating neurotransmitter. It also churns out dopamine, GABA, and other neurochemicals that affect how you feel, focus, and function. One fringe tidbit: in some studies, transplanting gut bacteria from anxious mice into calm ones made the calm ones anxious. The gut microbiome alone altered behavior, which means, brace yourself, your mood might partly depend on your microbes. The bacteria in your gut interact with the vagus nerve, sending information upward. They influence digestion, sure, but also cravings, immune response, and even emotional processing. Ever heard the phrase, "I'm just not myself today"? Maybe it's your gut flora filing a complaint. Let's not forget inflammation either. When your gut becomes irritated due to diet, stress, or illness, it can trigger inflammatory signals that affect the brain. This is one theory behind the brain fog that comes with certain chronic illnesses. Your gut's not just upset, it's writing strongly worded letters to headquarters. And if the communication breaks down, you get misfires, digestive discomfort, anxiety spikes, food cravings that feel like they're steering your body, maybe even depression, mood swings, or trouble sleeping. It's not all in your head. It might be in your gut-brain dialogue. But here's the beautiful part: you can tune this system. Practices like slow, diaphragmatic breathing stimulate the vagus nerve, increasing parasympathetic activity and helping you drop into a calmer state. Gentle humming, singing, or chanting can do the same. So can cold exposure, like a splash of cold water on the face, meditation, or even laughter. You're not powerless in this. You can feed your vagus nerve kindness. Even posture matters. Slouching compresses the vagal pathway. Sitting tall, shoulders open, breath full can free it up. You're not just posing, you're signaling to your nervous system, we're safe, we're okay. Right now, as you lie in stillness, your vagus nerve is active. It's regulating your breath, calming your heartbeat, managing your digestion, scanning for signs of safety or threat. And if you feel a little better, more grounded, more peaceful, it might be because this sleepy story is activating your parasympathetic nervous system through that very same pathway. Not a joke, not a metaphor. Just biology whispering. Your gut knows when you're stressed, when you're calm, when you've had enough. It doesn't speak in words, it speaks in rhythm, in pulses, in pressure. A warm belly, a steady breath, a sigh, a yawn. That's the vagus nerve saying, yes, this is good, you can rest now. And you can. Because your second brain is wide awake, so your first one doesn't have to be. You're still, breathing slow, blanketed in quiet. All the obvious senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, have softened into the background. But inside, beneath the skin, a dozen hidden systems continue whispering. Because you are not just a body. You are a walking sensor array. Every inch of you, from bone to blood to breath, is tuned to both the world and itself. You don't just perceive reality, you interpret it, measure it, weigh it against your needs, and then you act or simply lie there, effortlessly decoding complexity without ever thinking a word. Think back for a moment. You've got the vestibular system keeping you upright, tracking gravity's gentle pull. Proprioception, mapping the exact position of your pinky toe without a single glance. Thermoception, helping you feel the heat from a cup of tea before you touch it. Nociception, your alert system for pain, instant, ancient, and strangely smart. Interoception, always checking, am I full, thirsty, cold? But you've also got deeper channels. Chronoception, quietly timing your thoughts and dreams. Baroception, reading the weather in your joints. Vibration sensing, detecting footsteps long before your eyes confirm them. Magnetoreception, may be faint, may be forgotten, but not entirely gone. Electroreception, still debated but oddly persistent in our biology. Photoreception, beyond vision, guiding your rhythms even in total darkness. And then there are the communicative senses, those that connect you to others. Heartbeat synchrony, reminding you you're not an island. Chemical signaling, mapping trust and tension in the air. The gut-brain whisper network, translating comfort and unease into cellular poetry. Together, these form a kind of internal language, one you never learned but always understood, one without words, without symbols, just feeling, timing, texture. You're a soft machine tuned by evolution to survive, yes, but also to listen, to subtlety, to rhythm, to change. And this listening happens all the time. When you stand up too fast and wobble. When you sense someone watching you before they speak. When a room feels off for no reason. When your jaw tightens just before the rain. When the flicker of a sunrise rouses you before your alarm. These are not glitches, these are features. And they matter, because your experience of reality isn't just what you see, it's everything your body registers beneath awareness. You're never not sensing, you're never not tracking. Even when you sleep, especially when you sleep, your body doesn't shut off. It recalibrates, it processes, it lets the hidden senses take over while the conscious mind steps aside. Right now, your heartbeat is syncing to your breath. Your vagus nerve is whispering calm. Your proprioceptors are easing tension from your neck. Your internal clock is ticking gently toward deeper rest. And while your ears might catch a passing sound, your real perception tonight is coming from the inside, from the deeper senses, the quieter systems, the ones that keep you alive without applause. So yes, you are a sensor array, but you are not a machine. You're biological, responsive, curious. An animal with instincts wrapped in skin and powered by time. The modern world often forgets this. It prizes what can be seen, measured, labeled. But your most profound sensations live below that surface. They resist quantification. They hum quietly, patiently, beneath your every decision. And when you trust them, when you slow down, breathe deep, and let those inner voices speak, you often discover you already knew. You knew you were tired before you yawned. You knew you were safe before you opened your eyes. You knew something was changing, even if you didn't know what. Because your body listens. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need understanding. It just needs time, space, and the stillness to speak. So tonight, as the final layers of tension slip away and your thoughts blur at the edges, remember, you are not just sensing the world. You are the world sensing itself. Let the weight of that settle across your chest like a warm blanket. Let your heartbeat fall into rhythm with the quiet. Let the hush of your hidden senses carry you. You've been listening all along. Now it's time to rest. Word count 1,100. Wind down final 300 words. The room fades to soft shadow. The rhythm of your breath, slow and steady, carries you deeper. There's nothing left to do. No more systems to explore. No more signals to interpret. Just this moment. Just your body, soft and quiet, humming with the last gentle echoes of awareness. You feel the mattress beneath you, the press of gravity, the light pull of the blanket at your shoulders, all familiar, all safe. Inside, the hidden senses dim their lights. They've done their work. Your balance has settled. Your stretch receptors have softened. Your gut, your heart, your skin, all tuned in harmony, no longer scanning, no longer alert. Just still, just held. You may forget all of this by morning. That's fine. These quiet truths aren't made for memory. They're made for reassurance. The world in all its complexity continues turning, but you here in this pocket of dark calm are complete, whole. A soft sensor array, curled into the shape of rest. So drift, float if you must, or sink, let the last threads of wakefulness untangle. You don't need to feel every sense. You only need to know they're there. And they are. Always. Good night, beautiful listener. You're safe now. You're home in your own body. You're tuned to the silence.